all. I just wanted to take some time today to talk to you a little bit about approaching vocabulary. I'm going to cover how to encode vocabulary, which is a fancy way of saying memorize vocabulary, how you can kind of break down different words into their word parts to help you better understand words in context that may be unknown to you, and then also how to use those context clues to help figure out some unknown vocabulary. So just really quickly, I'm going to start with encoding vocabulary. I'm going to start with the ones I find most helpful all the way down to the ones that I find not quite as helpful, but maybe there's something that worked for you. So the first one is emotional. Those kind of personal connections you make to words can be a really great way to remember them. Creating your own context clue sentences, things like that, those are all really great strategies and tools. I know a lot of students, and myself included, the idea of a visual, attaching a picture to something can really work well. Auditory, I am a huge auditory learner. If I hear something enough, I tend to remember it. Maybe that describes you, maybe that doesn't. But if I'm hearing someone say something a lot, if I'm saying it a lot, I'm probably going to remember it. Kinesthetic, this is where we get into more of those. Maybe it works for some words, maybe it works for you. You have to kind of think about your own learning style and how it attaches to you. I think about the word copious. Sometimes I teach using kinesthetic, where you go like copious. Copious means a lot, and I always think the big arm motion can kind of help you remember it. And again, maybe if you're someone who's into that kind of like physical motion and things like that, that might be something that works. Again, thinking about your own learning style. Tactile is kind of those small movement, hands-on things. Maybe there's a way you can apply that. Again, sometimes it's kind of challenging with vocab, but if you can think of a way to integrate it into your vocab encoding, then that's awesome. I also would really encourage you to think about other resources you have. Some people, I know the review games online, creating your own review games, things like that can be really beneficial. Some people use note cards, some people create PowerPoints. Again, it's just kind of messing around with strategies that work for you. This is really where that metacognition goes in, thinking about your own thinking, right? Thinking about your own abilities and talents as a student and how to kind of build from those strengths. The next thing I'm going to talk about is word parts. So essentially, why it's important to know both vocab words, right, content vocab words that you might have, but also be able to break down words into their different component parts. The big reason for this is because if you can break down words into their component parts, so if you know what a prefix is, a base word is, a suffix is, you can break them down into that, and you know some of the meanings of those, you can really open up a lot of words to yourself that you maybe were not familiar with before. Think about times that you've maybe been in a science class or something like that, and there's a really technical term that comes up. But if you can sometimes break it into those component pieces, you can usually kind of figure it out pretty easily. So that's kind of the big reason we talk about word parts here. Think about the words themselves, okay? So again, most words are broken down into three parts. There's a prefix, there's a base or a root, and then there's a suffix. Not all words have prefixes, not all words have suffixes, but they always have a base, okay? A prefix modifies or qualifies that base word. I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. The base gives the word its basic meaning, and the suffix modifies the meaning, and it also is kind of a grammatical function. So that's where you can tell the tense, the part of speech, things like that. So for example, if I look at the word antipathy, right? Anti is against, path is feeling. That Y ending there is an adjective. It indicates that it's an adjective and that it's inclined to. Okay, so that Y at the end is inclined to, and it turns it into an adjective. So even if I've never seen the word antipathy before, because I know these different component parts, I can say, well, it must be someone having feelings against something. They dislike it in some way, right? Okay, the last thing I'm going to talk about is thinking about context. So here is where you're going to use your schema. That's kind of the first part of this. What's happening around the word? What do you know about it? And that's going to kind of help guide how you're figuring out this unknown vocab. The other thing to kind of consider is some of the transition words around it. Sometimes if you see a word like because, however, therefore, it really helps show the relationship between what's going on in the sentence and that word, and that can give you some indication as to what the meaning could be as well. So we'll just wrap up with just kind of a final example to show you how this is done. It's currently summer here. It is boiling, and I'm not a huge fan of the summer, so that's what inspired the sentence here. She loved sledding, hot chocolate, and all things cold. But the heat and humidity, that was another story, okay? So here I kind of break this down. All right, I know some background knowledge. Winter is all about sledding, hot chocolate, all things cold. Heat and humidity, that automatically makes me think about summer. There's also that signal word right here just to point out but, right? So there's going to be a contrast here. So she loves this, but this seems to be something that she doesn't love. And that's where I go to this next sentence. The constant discomfort and sunburn of summer left her feeling antipathy towards the season. Okay, so that idea of discomfort and sunburn and things like that that are not so great, that leads me to believe that antipathy is probably not such a great thing to be feeling. So these negative feelings against, even though a lot of people like summer. So again, you don't want to just be tapping into your own experience, but you want to be looking at the context, what's going around that sentence. Okay, I hope this is helpful. Thanks so much for listening.